This is the 0-degree laparoscopic camera navigation module. We use a 10mm 0-degree laparoscope, and as shown here we use a transparency with a template, and we have already mounted one of these onto the screen of the monitor. Set this extra one aside. We then insert the 0-degree laparoscope inside the training box, and there are a total of 5 different targets as shown here. The targets have a red centerpiece with a horizontal line, and we line those up within the template that we've mounted to the monitor in order to ensure that the target has been appropriately sized. Horizontal orientation is correct as shown here, and we go from each target consecutively until all 5 targets have been acquired for a 5-second period. For testing purposes, this drill requires a proctor, and it is important, as you can see here, that the proctor stands directly over the shoulder of the trainee so that they can very accurately detect when a target has been appropriately acquired. So we will initiate this drill with the laparoscope in place. The timer is started and the first target is acquired. The proctor starts a 5-second countdown timer. When I hear that beep, I can go on to the second drill as shown here. I hear that timer that says that I've held it correctly for 5 seconds. Move on to target number 3. Again, move on to target number 4. And then finally move on to target number 5. And the task is complete, and I will stop my watch. The proficiency level for this task is 49 seconds, and that's to be achieved on 2 consecutive repetitions during training. So again, we will start the timer to initiate this drill, and once I have appropriately acquired the target, my proctor will start the countdown timer. The target must be held steady for a total of 5 seconds, and then the second target can be acquired only when the target is within the template, both horizontally and sized correctly, should the countdown timer be started. And we move from target to target in this clockwise fashion. And you may have to move your body a little bit or your hands considerably to acquire the appropriate target. The tricks that can be helpful in this, as you can see, I'm holding my elbows relatively closely to my body. I'm using 2 hands on this instrument, even though it's a 0-degree scope and I do not have to manipulate the angle per se, but it's very helpful to have 2 hands on this to achieve a steady image. The errors to be avoided are not achieving horizontal orientation appropriately. As you can see here, the template gives me the true horizontal orientation, but my laparoscope is not horizontally oriented correctly, and I must rotate the back of this laparoscopic camera device in order to achieve the appropriate horizontal orientation, where the line of the target is within both horizontal lines of the template. If I'm too close to the target, then the edge of the target, the red and white line interface, will be well outside of the parallel lines of the template. Same thing if I'm way too far away, then the target has not been appropriately sized. So shown here is the correct sizing. The other error to avoid is that if I initially acquire the image correctly, as shown here, but then cannot hold the image steady for 5 seconds and drift out, or drift out horizontally, then the proctor restarts the timer, and the countdown timer for 5 seconds is only started once I have successfully reacquired the image and can hold it steady for the full 5 seconds. For training purposes, it's very handy to simply start the stopwatch and for the trainee to self-score themselves by acquiring the appropriate images they think is suitable, glancing down at the stopwatch, and then counting off 5 seconds. Once 5 seconds has been held, they can then go to the next target, again glance down at the stopwatch, count off 5 seconds in that fashion, and then move to the next target as shown here. Again, glance down, count off 5 seconds, and then move throughout the rest of the targets. This alleviates the need for a proctor during training, but we do recommend proctored testing so that it can be very objectively scored and so that proficiency may be verified.